Tonight, the president-elect says the economy's going from bad to worse as he goes to Capitol Hill to push for a massive new stimulus package, including hundreds of millions in tax cuts. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, the war in Gaza escalates. Civilian casualties grow, but Israel vows to keep up the attacks until Hamas stops firing missiles over the border. Prosecutors ask a judge to revoke Bernard Madoff's bail after the accused swindler sends $1 million worth of assets to his relatives. And a study says doctors are subjecting hundreds of thousands of American women to breast biopsies they don't really need.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
And good evening, everyone. Well, it's not the way it usually works. A president-elect trying to push legislation through Congress 2 weeks before he's even sworn in. But this is no ordinary time. And with the economy in crisis, Barack Obama went to Capitol Hill to meet with congressional leaders and urge them to approve a stimulus package he can sign soon after he takes office. The cost of the plan could run as high as $775 billion. It would include $300 billion in tax cuts, all this aimed at creating or saving 3 million jobs. Chip Reed has more.
He likes to say there's only one president at a time. But in the hallways and corner offices of Capitol Hill today, President-elect Obama left no doubt he's already taking charge.
We've got to act quickly, we've got to act boldly.
Amid reports that the date for passing his economic stimulus package is already slipping well into February, he had a stern message for Congress.
I expect to sign a bill to create 3 million jobs for the American people shortly after I get inaugurated.
In a development that pleased many Republicans, Mr. Obama wants more tax cuts than had been expected. Of the total stimulus, now at about $775 billion, he wants 40% of that, about $300 billion, to go to tax cuts, about half of that for business. For example, allowing companies to write off losses incurred during this recession and giving businesses a tax credit for hiring new workers. As for individuals, all but the wealthiest would get an immediate tax cut of $500, for families, $1,000. It's what Mr. Obama calls a balanced stimulus package.
Part of it is going to be addressing consumers and making sure they've got money in their pockets. Part of it is to provide incentives for businesses so that they start investing in plants and equipment that ultimately lead to jobs.
The focus on business tax cuts is sure to make some liberal Democrats unhappy, but political analyst Stuart Rothenberg says it's the kind of new politics Obama has long advocated.
So I think a package like this, as it turns out, is one that reaches out both to Democrats and Republicans.
And with Mr. Obama hoping to pass the stimulus package with a large bipartisan majority, his team was encouraged by early reactions from Republicans to the idea of tax cuts.
Clearly, it's an area that brings excitement to Republicans because it does put money in the economy right away.
Republican sources on Capitol Hill say Mr. Obama went out of his way today to make clear he will continue to listen to Republicans. In one private meeting, he said, quote, "A monopoly on good ideas does not belong to a single party." Katie?
Chip Reed. Chip, thanks very much. President-elect Obama's transition hit a major road bump over the weekend when New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson suddenly withdrew his nomination to be Commerce Secretary. A grand jury is investigating how his political donors landed a lucrative transportation contract. Today, the governor talked publicly about his decision to pull out.
It was my idea to withdraw. I withdrew because I felt I didn't want a possible inquiry going on to delay the enormous progress we need to rebuild this economy.
Bob Schieffer is our chief Washington correspondent and anchor of Face the Nation. Bob, how embarrassing is this Richardson snafu?
Well, very embarrassing. And with this mess swirling around the allegations that the Illinois governor was trying to sell Obama's old Senate seat to the highest bidder, the Obama folks just could not risk any possibility of an embarrassment over the Richardson thing. So whatever happens, when Richardson volunteered to go, no one tried to stop him. The Obama people just took a deep breath and decided to cut their losses while they could.
And meanwhile, Bob, I know you have some intelligence, so to speak, about Leon Panetta, who's rumored to be the next director of the CIA?
Well, this is a weird one. It leaked out today, it got on the wires, that Obama was going to appoint Leon Panetta, the next chief of the CIA, which is sort of surprising because he really has no background in the intelligence field. But what happened was someone forgot to tell Senator Dianne Feinstein, who is the incoming chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, who must confirm him. She told me tonight she was blindsided by the announcement. She had no hint it was coming, and she thought the office deserved a professional intelligence person. She told me she's not saying she won't vote against him, but it's going to be an uphill battle now to get him confirmed. And, Katie, here is the irony. Panetta did want a place in this administration, but he's been telling his friends the job he wanted was the one Richardson has just gotten out of, Secretary of Commerce. So it's open again. The mood that Senator Feinstein is in, he may have a better chance of getting that than the CIA.
All right. To be continued. Bob Schieffer. Bob, as always, thank you. Meanwhile, overseas, Israeli ground troops drove deeper into Gaza today, taking control of high-rise buildings and attacking Hamas rocket launchers. And the Israelis continued their relentless air assault, which has now left more than 540 Palestinians dead. According to the UN, 200 of the victims were civilians. Israel says there will be no ceasefire until it destroys Hamas's ability to fire rockets over the border. Also today, in his first public comment on the violence, President Bush blamed Hamas for starting it. Mark Phillips begins our coverage from the front lines.
For the third night in a row, the fighting is furious, the combat closer than it's been until now, as Israeli troops have begun pushing into the heavily populated areas where Hamas fighters wait. The Israelis have continued the relentless air and artillery pounding that has traumatized Gaza's population, raised the civilian death toll, and led to increasingly louder calls from around the world for the offensive to stop. The voices from within Gaza have become more desperate.
We don't have enough food, we don't have enough water, and as you hear me, more bombings, and I could see the dust now over my house from the window. This night would be very hot.
The Israelis have continued their advance, first moving into the northern part of the Gaza Strip and up the middle, effectively cutting the Strip in two, and now into the south. Having cut Hamas up into isolated segments, they're now attacking it. There are reports Israeli troops have moved into buildings on the fringes of the major population centers and that close-range fighting with Hamas may have begun. Phase 2, the ground invasion, may be moving to Phase 3, rooting out Hamas from its booby-trapped strongholds.
In the next hours or days, you'll see the Israeli soldiers going more and more into the populated areas because that's where Hamas stays. Would the Israeli public be able to sustain it? That's a question of casualties.
It's also a question of whether the Hamas rockets continue to be fired into Israeli cities. They kept coming today, sending people and even cabinet ministers scurrying for cover. Also incoming, the diplomats. A delegation from the European Union arrived, as did French President Sarkozy. But the message they're all getting from Israel, the job of protecting its citizens isn't done yet.
When Israel is being targeted, Israel is going to retaliate.
In the race between war and diplomacy, war is way ahead. The diplomatic wheels have begun to creak, but thus far, Katie, they're making very little progress.
And Mark, when it comes to diplomacy, what are both sides looking for to reestablish the ceasefire that ended last month?
What they want is the very causes of this nasty little war to begin with. The Israelis want the missiles to stop and some guarantee that Hamas won't import more weapons, and Hamas wants the blockade lifted, and that's the contradiction.
All right. Mark Phillips. Mark, thanks very much. As Mark just reported, conditions in Gaza are getting worse by the day. There's no power and little drinking water in Gaza City, and the main hospital is unable to provide relief from the growing humanitarian crisis. More now from Richard Roth.
At the biggest hospital in Gaza, the emergency is overwhelming the ER. There aren't enough ambulances to carry the casualties who arrive in cars and taxis too. The beds are all busy at Shifa Hospital. The courtyard's a crowded waiting room. The morgue is full. General Manager Hassan Khalaf insists the majority of patients by far are civilians. We reached him by cell phone.
The latest figure is the total killed people is 543 at the moment, and about 30% of them are women and children. The number of injured people is 2,600.
Does she have any pain?
11-year-old Lama Alaiwa was brought in this afternoon. Her home was hit by an Israeli bomb. Her mother and 4 siblings were killed. Her doctor's Norwegian. Mads Gilbert came to Gaza last week to help out, he says, in a hospital that's short of everything but misery.
They have no spare parts, they have no monitors, they have not enough blood pressure machines, they don't have enough trolleys, they lack everything. And on top of this, you have this huge disaster.
The word Shifa means healing, but Gilbert says Shifa Hospital is struggling to live up to its name.
We have to be even harder to select who we can treat, and we have to put aside people who could otherwise die. That is the gruesome fact of this situation, and we are not talking about the 17th century, we are talking about 2009.
One other note, a senior Israeli intelligence official says Shifa Hospital isn't just a refuge for the wounded. He says it's also being used as a hideout for some leaders of Hamas. Hospital officials, Katie, vehemently deny that.
Richard Roth reporting from the Middle East tonight. Richard, thank you. Coming up next, right here on the CBS Evening News, how did they miss it? Congress accuses government regulators of standing by as Bernard Madoff's investors lost billions. Congress held the first public hearing today on the Bernard Madoff scandal and demanded to know why federal regulators stood by as investors were being swindled out of $50 billion. As for Madoff, the government accused him today of violating a court-ordered freeze on his assets. Here's Cheryl Atkinson.
Bernard Madoff was in a New York courtroom today answering to prosecutors who said he violated his bail by mailing $1 million in jewelry and assets to relatives. No decision yet on whether bail will be revoked. At the exact same time in Washington, Congress was looking into how Madoff evaded SEC regulators who were tipped off for more than a decade.
Now, if there is an investigation and we find that someone within the SEC was complicit with it, well, then that person is a crook and needs to go to jail.
A crucial witness on that score was a no-show, whistleblower Harry Markopolos. He told Congress he was too physically worn down to testify today and needs more time. A financial expert, Markopolos first alerted officials nearly 10 years ago about what he saw as Madoff's scam. In 2005, he sent this 19-page report to the SEC titled "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud," concluding it was highly likely that Madoff Securities is the world's largest Ponzi scheme. Using mathematical models, Markopolos outlined 29 red flags in a virtual blueprint of how to investigate Madoff, calling his profits too good to be true. Markopolos also said he worried about his personal safety. But where Markopolos saw red flags, professional regulators apparently found no problems.
I want to tell that person or those people whose job it is that they suck at it.
Retired textile company owner Alan Goldstein testified he lost his life savings with Madoff and may soon lose the roof over his head.
We are ordinary people who are victims of an incomprehensible crime.
The SEC's Inspector General told Congress today he plans to delve into allegations of conflict of interest involving some at the SEC and the Madoff family. Katie?
Cheryl Atkinson, thanks very much, Cheryl. Now to a very different financial matter. American car companies reported their December sales today, and it's not a pretty picture. GM sales fell 31%, Ford down 32%, and Chrysler sales plunged 53%. Anthony Mason has the bottom line on a very bad year.
By every measure, it was one of Detroit's worst years on record. Chrysler's sales went off a cliff, plunging by nearly a third in 2008. Ford and GM were each down more than 20%. General Motors hasn't seen a sales number that bad
Chevrolet is the one.
since Dinah Shore was singing its jingles.
The fun is in the going.
The consumer has basically, frankly, pulled out of the market.
Even Toyota wasn't immune. Sales of its Prius hybrid fell 45% in December. So all dealers are getting desperate. Hyundai is offering to buy back cars from customers if they lose their jobs. GM's new 0% financing for certain models has brought some shoppers into showrooms.
So you're getting traffic.
We're getting traffic, which leads to sales in most cases.
But it hasn't really yet?
Not yet. I think consumers are still trying to figure out what's exactly happening in the market.
Enterprise, the country's largest rental car company, is cutting its purchases by almost half this year, or nearly 400,000 vehicles.
Do you see things getting any better from here?
Not in the short term.
So John LaSorsa has laid off 15 employees, nearly a quarter of the staff in his Bronx, New York dealership. He's taking it day by day.
Because you can't see ahead?
We can't see ahead.
Some analysts see a gradual recovery later this year.
But the overall year 2009 will be, actually, we're forecasting worse than 2008.
Only 8 years ago, the industry sold a record 17.4 million vehicles. This year, J.D. Power predicts that'll fall to 11.4 million, a 16-year low. Even if Detroit can pull a U-turn, the comeback will have a long way to go. Anthony Mason, CBS News, New York.
1 out of 8 women in this country will develop breast cancer, but tonight questions are being raised about a routine procedure that helps doctors make the diagnosis. Every year, more than 1.5 million women undergo breast biopsies, but a new study suggests nearly 600,000 of them are unnecessary. Here's Dr. John LaPook.
Good morning, how you feeling?
I'm fine, thank you, sir.
When 33-year-old Naylin Karuma had a suspicious spot on her mammogram, she feared the worst.
I thought I was going to die.
Her doctor ordered a needle biopsy, the recommended first step in testing for breast cancer. But a study that has experts asking, where's the outrage, finds 36% of women who need breast biopsies are getting invasive surgery, costing 3 times as much as the recommended procedure. Why are surgeons ignoring their own guidelines?
It's something that they've been doing for the last 25 years. They're comfortable with the diagnostic accuracy, and they're somewhat hesitant to make a change.
A needle biopsy is done under local anesthesia, leaves a tiny scar, and costs about $1,000 to $2,000. It rarely misses lesions. A surgical biopsy requires sedation and stitches and costs about $5,000 to $6,000, and it leaves a bigger scar.
Some women even find that they have to have further work to repair the breast biopsy they had to show that they didn't have cancer. That's really crazy.
Good news, all the biopsies are negative.
For Karuma, it was the best of all worlds, a minor procedure that found no cancer.
I said, oh my God, thank God, so I can live long to see my kids.
About 90% of abnormal mammograms turn out to be benign. So the most minimally invasive approach makes the most sense. Katie?
And John, we heard in your piece that doctors are hesitant to change, but is there any other explanation for these surgical procedures when a simple needle biopsy would do the trick?
Aside from surgeons being set in their ways, there's an economic consideration that some people think is playing a role. Radiologists are the people who do the needle aspirates in most cases, and the surgeons are the ones who do the biopsies. So look, bottom line here is, this has to be patient-driven. If you're getting a biopsy because of an abnormal mammogram, you need to talk to your doctor about whether or not a needle aspirate could do the trick. And if the doctor isn't mentioning this, you need to think about a second opinion.
All right. Dr. John LaPook, as always, John, thanks so much. And we'll be right back. The new Congress will be sworn in tomorrow in what's usually a routine affair. This year, though, it's anything but, because Wyatt Andrews reports it's not at all clear whether the Senate will allow 2 men to be seated.
In an act of defiance that's either principled or quite pointless, Roland Burris traveled to Washington today. He's pressing the claim that he's already the new senator from Illinois.
I am the magic man.
And daring Senate Democrats not to seat him.
This is all politics and theater, but I am the junior senator according to every law book in the nation.
And not just according to law. On Sunday, Burris claimed an endorsement from on high.
And the Lord put his hands on the governor and said, this is the person that has to go to Washington.
Maybe, but he won't be sworn in when the Senate takes office tomorrow. Democrats plan to reject anyone appointed by Governor Blagojevich.
I'm ready to go to Washington.
In Minnesota, Democrat Al Franken was finally declared the winner over Republican Norm Coleman by 225 votes out of 3 million cast. But Franken also won't be seated on Tuesday. Coleman is appealing to the state Supreme Court, and Republicans don't want Franken sworn in with a lawsuit pending.
Under Minnesota law, an election certificate does not issue until litigation has been concluded.
Which means the new Senate for now will only have a 57-41 Democratic voting majority, not the 59 votes Democrats hope to have locked down. Even more drama is expected tomorrow when Roland Burris comes to the Senate expecting to be sworn in. Senate Democrats have said, don't bother, stay tuned. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
And finally tonight, this was a big day for the incoming first family, and it had nothing to do with politics. Just a mom and dad wishing their daughters good luck on the first day of their new school, Sidwell Friends. Following a hug and a kiss in their hotel room, Malia and Sasha headed off to school just like any other kids. Any other kids with a motorcade and a police escort, that is. And that is the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Couric. Thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.